Cache Valley Media Group's countdown of the top 25 Aggie football players for this upcoming season of 2023 moves to number 6. Anthony Swizter is in that spot. He is in the striker position. Switzer transferred to Utah State from Arkansas State. He is from Augusta, Arkansas. He's 6 feet, 210-pound junior. Striker, Anthony Switzer at number 6.
So Anthony Swizter, the versatile, he'll play safety. He'll kind of play that hybrid, in that 4-2-5. A lot of teams that play 4-2-5, they don't usually add a defensive back. They throw in somebody who's kind of like a in-between, safety and linebacker. And that's going to be Anthony Switzer. That'll be one of his primary roles, is to be versatile, play in the box at times, play in coverage at other times. So obviously a very big and very key role for Utah State's defense, a guy who's got to be able to be everywhere on the field and do just about anything.
This is one of those guys, like we've seen a number of them in our top 25 list, where we're hopeful that this is the type of impact that they will have on the Utah State football team. Because this is a guy who had stretches at Arkansas State where he's like, okay, this is a serious dude. And we heard the coaches super excited about him and what he was doing in spring ball before he got hurt, before the scrimmage a year ago. And now that he's getting healthy, they're praising what kind of impact he can have on the football team. And I had a chance to sit down and visit with him at Media Day a couple of weeks ago. This is a guy who loves football and wants to have an impact on the team. And even though he didn't have pads on during the first scrimmage, he was not sitting idly by. Sometimes players, if they don't have their pads on, they're just chilling on the sidelines, hands in pockets, kind of mulling around, not really engaged. And Switzer was fully engaged even though he didn't have his pads on. And that's the type of player he is, he wants to be. Question is, how healthy can he be and sustain it? But I believe that if he is healthy, he is going to be an impact player. I had him at number 5 on my personal ballot because I feel like this is a linebacker core that needs an influx of energy and excitement, and everything I've heard from the coaches and some of the things that I've seen, he can do that. Let's just hope that he stays healthy to continue to deliver week in and week out.
Yeah, I believe I had him at, I think, either 4 or 5. So I also had him in my top 5. And, I mean, to tell you just how much hope and also hype there is for him, Anthony Switzer is the only player in our top 10 of the top 25 Aggies who hasn't played a snap for Utah State before. He's the only one. So he's not played a down of football for the Aggies, but there's a big belief that Anthony Switzer will be one of the best players for this team. For me and you, it's like we're thinking he's like top 5. And so he has a very, very big role to play for the Aggies. And yeah, as long as he stays healthy, I do think that he's going to be, arguably the best player on the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah, and he's was brought here as a linebacker. As you detailed earlier, he can move back kind of in a safety, a hybrid position. We've seen that over the last few years under Blake Anderson's style. Of course, that was an Ephraim Bonda thing more than anything. But Switzer's going to fill that role, and it can be a very, very important role in how it gets used. And so Switzer, with his speed and athleticism, but still have enough power to affect things up front, can be somebody who can do both. Stop the run, but also drop back and cover tight ends or wide receivers coming across the middle.
Yeah, that's a tricky thing. You end up asking a lot because sometimes you put a guy in that position and he's just more of a linebacker and he's just able to cover the run a little bit better. I think Kaleo Neves was a little bit of that where it felt like he played that hybrid position last year.
Yeah.
Felt like he struggled a bit in coverage, but was better in covering the run. Sometimes maybe you end up with a guy who's just better in coverage, but he can't stop the run. And so you got to find the right guy who can, he's obviously not going to be super great at both unless he's just a, superstar of a player. But, you want a guy who can do a little bit of both, have the power to, get into the backfield, play against the run, but also be able to keep up. When you got to cover a wide receiver, you got to be able to cover him. You got to be able to cover a tight end. You got to do a bunch of little different things. And so that's why he's such a key player, is because he's playing perhaps the most important position on the defense, which is hard to say about one particular position on defense because they all have their key roles. But it feels like his might be arguably the most important. And so he's got to hold down that role and play it really well.
Yeah, so Anthony Switzer, number 6 in our list of top 25 Aggies. He wears number 1 on his jersey, and he's the latest in our countdown of top 25 Aggies for 2023.